Well, good morning. Glad you could join us on this February morning. It appears that temperatures are finally moderating after what has been a fairly challenging month. Looks like the word snow is still with us, though. I'll have much more to say about the weather later in today's show. And later we'll also learn about a new award that TV6 has established to honor Carl Pellenba. But first, I'm excited this morning to talk with Michigan's new governor. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, Gretchen Whitmer became Michigan's 49th governor on January 1st of this year. She received over 50% of the vote in a three-way race in the Democratic primary and captured the governor's seat by defeating Bill Schuette, a veteran of Michigan politics, in the general election. The governor describes herself as a proud product of Michigan's public school system and a graduate of Michigan State University and the MSU College of Law. The new governor should feel at home in the state capitol, as she was born in Lansing to parents who both worked in state government. Whitmer is also not a stranger to Michigan politics, having served 6 years in the State House of Representatives and 8 years in the state Senate, where her Democratic colleagues unanimously chose her to be the Senate Democratic leader, making her the first woman to lead a party caucus in the Senate. Our sit-down with the governor occurred on a snowy morning that delayed her flight into Marquette and her drive to TV6 from the airport. But despite running behind schedule, she kept her commitment with us, and we're pleased she did. Here's the first part of our conversation. Well, Governor, thanks for coming. I know you have a couple of very busy days planned. This is your first visit, I believe, to the Upper Peninsula as governor. I know you've been here many times before.
Right.
Any special thoughts for the people here in the superior part of Michigan?
Well, I agree. I love this part of our state. We are so fortunate to have this beautiful landmass, but the best part about the UP are the people who call it home, and I am thrilled to be here.
Your visit here coincides with the UP's 200 sled dog race, one of many tourism events here in the Upper Peninsula. This tourism is very important to the UP. How will your administration support tourism in Michigan?
Well, there's no question, and the sled dog race is one wonderful thing, but I also know Winter Carnival is another coming up in Houghton, and throughout all 12 seasons, or all 12 months I should say, there's always something fun to do here in the UP. So tourism is an important part of our economy. It is an important part of the budget that I will be introducing, is making sure that we continue our investment in advertising some of the great offerings across our state. And the UP, there's no other place in the world like it, and we've got to make sure that we continue to tell our story and encourage people to come in and be a part of it.
Obviously, mining and forestry are very important to this region as well. Recently, we had some potential good news about the possible reopening of the Empire Mine. Mm-hmm. Will your administration be supportive of mining and the forestry industries?
Well, absolutely. We want to make sure that we are putting people to work, that we are continuing to have great opportunities. We also need to protect this great land that we have, that we're so fortunate to be home to. Mike Prusi is my UP person. He's someone that I served with in the legislature. He is a former miner. He is someone who is, I always seek his counsel as we are navigating policy decisions and debates that are happening in Lansing, because it's important to me that we actually have a UPer at the table who is knowledgeable and advising me every step of the way.
Well, the governor's visit here did coincide with the UP 200 sled dog races in Marquette. The governor spoke to the crowd at the event that night and also talked with TV6, reaffirming her commitment to the Upper Peninsula economy and tourism in the region.
All right, hello everyone. Hey, use your lungs, it keeps you warm. Hello everyone. All right, I am thrilled to be back here in Marquette, but on this trip I am not jumping in Lake Superior.
The economy is critically important to the whole state, and as governor, I am thrilled to be here to highlight some of the great things that happen, but also I'm going to be a great partner to ensure that we continue to draw in tourism, draw in investment. Great jobs here for UPers is something that's really important to me. Well, we, from skills, making sure that everyone has a path to a high-wage skill, to fixing our infrastructure, to protecting the Great Lakes. These are things that are critical to everyone in the state, but so essential, especially for the Upper Peninsula.
I'll be back with more of our conversation with Governor Whitmer after we take this break. Continuing our conversation with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, we talked about some of the issues that are high on the current agenda. Your State of the State message, you drew a lot of attention from legislators when you mentioned auto insurance reform. What kind of changes will you accept for that to happen?
Well, Michigan, Michiganders pay the highest rates in the nation, and it is money that's coming out of our household incomes, our ability to take care of our families, and to retire. And I think that that's something that for too long our leaders have been unable to really bring those rates down. Frank Kelly was one of my all-time heroes. He's someone who always fought to make sure that consumers were protected in the state, and that's a part of the calling that I have as governor. I'm going to make sure that your different aspects that don't have anything to do with your driving are not used against you, and to pad the bottom line of insurance companies. We're going to make sure that when someone is injured, though, that they still can have the coverage that they desperately need. And I think there's a lot of interests at the table that aren't really being represented right now. And we're going to put our foot on the gas and make sure we do this, but we got to do it right.
One of the other issues you addressed in the State of the State was workforce development. Many state leaders agree with that. What do you think Michigan needs to do to prepare for the future?
Well, there's no question that, there are a couple of crises that we're confronting. One is in infrastructure and the other is in skills. And both require investment, prioritizing, harnessing some of the great things that we have here in our state. I'm going to head over to Northern Michigan University, get to, talk with people in the program, get to talk with people running the program, get to talk with the leadership at the university about how we can expand those paths for people who want to get skills that'll lead to higher wage jobs. But we have to have a statewide, plan to address this, and that's why I said by 2030, Michigan is going to hit the 60% mark when it comes to post-secondary skills attainment. We're one of only 9 states in the country that didn't have a goal until this week. We're going to meet that goal, and when we do, we make Michigan a place where everyone has a path to a high-wage job. If you're willing to work, you're going to have a path that gets you into a place where you can live a really good life here.
You also addressed the possibility of community college education, tuition-free,
right,
and tuition benefits for those going to college as well. Will that need legislative approval before it goes into place? And do you think you can get the legislature to approve it?
I'm confident that I can, but of course I've got work to do. I'm going to make no assumptions, but I'm going to work to build bridges with my colleagues in the legislature. You've got Representative Cambenzi and Senator McBroom, different sides of the aisle, but both, I think, people that are driven by the core value of making sure everyone has a path to a high wage skill. Community college, debt-free community college is a part of my plan, as is making a 4-year degree more affordable. But also I've introduced the Michigan Reconnect program, which is for someone who's in the workforce, who needs to enhance their skills to maintain the job they have or move into a better paying job, or someone who's been displaced. I think that there is a path for everyone, and that's the point that I'm trying to make, so that we get everyone on that path.
This is the first time in 8 years we've had a Republican legislature and Democratic governor. Do you think bipartisanship can really work?
I do. I absolutely do. We have shown that in the past. The Mackinac Bridge was built when we had a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature, and people didn't think they could do it. But they worked together and did it, and they built this structure that connected our people, and it strengthened our economy. I think Michigan has an opportunity to show the world that divided government doesn't have to mean gridlock like we see in Washington, D.C.
The legislature recently, this week actually, overturned your executive order on establishing citizen panels for DEQ review. What does that say to us about bipartisanship?
Oh, it says that the legislature made a bad choice, but I'm going to forge ahead to make sure that we've got a department that is nimble and efficient, that protects our Great Lakes, ensures that everyone, people have access to affordable energy, and that we protect the environment. That's something that no matter if you're Republican or Democrat, no matter if you're a Youper or a troll, that's what people want from their government. I'm going to keep my foot on the gas.
Will you push back and try to make those changes?
I am going to be I'll sign a new EO in short order, and exactly what's in that is not something I'm ready to announce, because we're still putting the final touches on it.
Last year, after there were some tragic shootings around the country, Michigan had a flurry of activity on school safety. Some school safety recommendations were put forth by a task force. They seem to have gotten lost toward the end of the year. Is that something that you will be looking at and that you hope the legislature will look at?
Well, I do, I've got children in the public schools. We live in the Lansing area now, but my kids go to East Lansing Public Schools. They're a junior and a sophomore. And I got to tell my kids when they're in class to always be mindful of what the quickest exit is. With lockdown drills, and now they're locking, they're requiring every student hit a buzzer when they're coming in and leaving school if it's not in the beginning of the morning and the end of the afternoon. Kids are scared, parents are scared, teachers are scared, and I think it's important that we have a dialogue about how we go about making our schools safer. And that's something that, my friends who are responsible gun owners embrace. It's something that parents embrace. And I think that starting that conversation is the responsible thing to do, to make sure we do it in a way that doesn't compromise our great tradition of gun ownership in Michigan, but also makes our kids safe in schools.
There are so many demands on the state purse strings. Are we willing to spend enough money, do you think, to make schools safe because it is an expensive proposition?
It's expensive to fix the roads and make sure everyone has clean drinking water too, but these are the foundational things that make us a state that people will want to come to, a home for opportunity, and we've got to get it done.
And of course, fix the roads has been something you've talked about extensively.
Well, I say fix the damn roads.
Yes,
actually.
I know. You can say that. I probably can't say that. Everybody is asking, how are you going to do it?
So I'll be introducing my budget March 5th. We'll have a real plan to fix the roads for the first time in Michigan in 30 years. The fact of the disintegrating roads out there with the temperatures that rise and fall and no real plan until now means that we're all paying to fix our cars. It's the worst kind of road tax you can pay because it doesn't actually fix the roads. And so my plan will be out in just a little over 2 weeks, and that's when the real debate will start about, are we ready to make the wise decision to do this right for today and for generations to come?
Just a final question. It's too early to talk about legacy, but as you think about that, when you get down the road and that time comes, what do you want your legacy to be as governor of Michigan?
Well, I was raised, my dad was a Milliken Republican, my mom was a Frank Kelly Democrat. I was raised to understand that we have to work together in order to solve problems. And I hope that at the end of my time as governor that people will recognize that I did everything I could to pull parties together and solve problems, and Michigan's better off because we did it together.
Okay. As I said, I know you're very busy. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Enjoy your visit to Upper Michigan.
I always do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're pleased that Gretchen Whitmer's first stop in the UP as governor was here at TV6. We'll be back to tell you about a special award that TV6 has established after we take a 2-minute break. Our next guest this morning is Rick Rhodes. Rick started his career in sales here about 16 years ago. He was later promoted to sales manager and was named general manager 2 years ago. Rick is here this morning to talk about an award the station recently established. Rick, welcome back to the Ryan Report.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
Go ahead. Before we talk about that award, it was nice having the governor with us.
Oh, it was fantastic having the governor with us. And, I'm really surprised, I think, everybody that she was able to make it because it was such a snowy day. And the fact that her team got her here, and she's got a great team with her that travels with her. And it was really great to see her. I was out at a couple of the receptions that she was attending to that evening, and she was welcomed very warmly by the community, and I think her visit was a very positive visit for the UP, and I hope there's many more visits to come.
And just part of our continuing effort to bring the newsmakers to the public through TV6 News.
Absolutely.
Which you can now watch in many different ways.
You can,
and,
yes.
As an old timer, I don't even know all of those things, but I know that there are just many opportunities to get the TV6 News wherever you are.
Correct, and we made some recent upgrades. Our live stream through our website is a way to watch the news. On our mobile app, you can watch the news. Also, wouldn't want to go without plugging our fairly new weather app, which has videos there, which is fantastic. But we're also on Roku. There is an app on Roku, and you can get the TV6 app on Roku, and you can watch all of our news there. As well as other streaming services now that are bringing local channels. YouTube TV just released nationwide all of their local channels available on YouTube TV for all the zip codes and all the counties across the United States. So
it's amazing to a guy who grew up watching a 17-inch screen.
Yeah.
turning the channel selector by
hitting
hand.
the sound and
Yeah,
getting the
all those
antennas.
kind of things.
Yeah.
And of course, back in those days, although he was here before me, one of the pioneers was Carl Pellenpa. And you're here today really to tell us about a new award the station has established.
Yes, and we're really excited about this. We made a soft announcement December 31st of 2018, just a month and a half ago, which would have been Carl's 88th birthday. And we announced that we have created the Carl V. Pellenpa Lifetime Achievement Award. And so we took this award and we're going to be presenting it to people in the community every year, a person in the community, and we're going to recognize them for a lifetime of achievement for within their particular industry, service clubs, organizations, communities, much like how Carl dedicated his entire life to the Upper Peninsula and making the Upper Peninsula a better place.
And as you think about that, you know, we think about Carl's career. Of course, he and I share one thing. We both started at a small radio station in Ishpeming at different times.
Yep.
But really, he spent most of his working career on the air here at TV6.
Yes.
And to my memory, he's probably the only Marquette County resident who did that.
We were talking about this a couple of days ago, and yeah, I believe you're correct there. But you know, with his program being on the air for over 50 years, and the things that he did with our TV station. I mean, host of Upper Michigan Today. He was a news anchor. He was in production. I mean, he did everything here. And really, his legacy, he left a lasting legacy here at the station, but not only just here at the station, but outside in the community. The things that he did outside of the communities, the thing that he did for the country of Finland,
Right.
Really just an impressive body of work, a body of work that needs to be remembered, a person and a personality that needs to be remembered, and that's kind of what led us here today is to create this award, because when Carl passed, we did a tribute for him the week of after he had passed. We ran a couple of Finland calling specials. We did some tributes on our Facebook page. We did a couple of news stories just to remember him. We reran the Life and Times of Carl Pellenpa. And so the next day on Monday when I got back into work, I looked at Kim Parker, who was our marketing director at the time, and I looked at him. I said, "Did we do enough?" I just didn't feel like we did enough, and so we wanted to really remember him for the person that he was, and his lifetime of achievement for giving back. And what a better way to name an award after him. And every year we get to remember him. We get to remember what he did. We get to remember his legacy, but we also get to pay tribute to somebody who has done equal things within the communities and within their industry. So really proud of that.
And this award would be available to anyone in the Upper Peninsula?
Anyone in the Upper Peninsula, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to open it up to anyone in the Upper Peninsula. We have a small committee internally that we formed that is the awards committee. We're hoping to grow that, and we're hoping to expand that. So we are going to be making an announcement next week on who that recipient is, and we'll be doing some promotions on promoting that. And we're also going to do, which anyone listening and watching, we're going to be inviting folks to a small little gathering March 25th. To be continued on the details, but we're going to hand out the award and pay tribute to that person and pay tribute to Carl as well.
Okay, we're out of time. Thanks for coming in this morning, for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be back with some other thoughts for you in just a couple of minutes. Well, it's time for some thoughts on winter. You know, when you've experienced as many as I have, there really aren't many surprises. No matter what Mother Nature throws at us, I've seen it before. How does this winter compare? Well, the TV6 meteorologist can give you all kinds of statistics comparing snowfall amounts and temperatures from year to year. For me, it's just kind of a gut reaction that tells me it's certainly not the nicest, but it's also far from the worst of the winters we've seen. Of course, it's not over yet. I can tell you this has not been my favorite February. I've spent more time blowing and shoveling snow this month than ever, and I'm reaching the point where it's harder to figure out where to put it all. Recent forecasts show the temperature is warming a little, but there's no indication the word snow will disappear from the forecast anytime soon. So I guess those snowbanks will just keep getting bigger. And speaking of snowbanks, Carol Anderson, now Carol Anderson Clark, a former news anchor here at TV6, who went on to a successful career in television, posted something on Facebook the other day that brought back some memories for me. Carol's post said, "Does anyone remember when you used to put a ball on top of your car's radio antenna? so people could see your car was coming by looking for that ball over a snowbank? You know, I hadn't thought about that for years, but I remember it very well. The fact that most cars don't have the tall radio antennas coming out of their car fenders anymore has pretty much put an end to that tradition. And thinking about those balls also got me thinking about another old tradition involving our cars. Remember when just about everyone would put snow tires on their cars in the winter? I guess there are still a few who put winter tires on their cars, but back in those days, when I was a young man, it was pretty much a necessity if you wanted to get around in the snow. I remember very well what happened each year at Willie's Tire Shop in Ishpeming. That shop would be jumping from morning till night as driver after driver arrived for their appointment to get those snow tires installed. It was a ritual that happened every year until the arrival of radial tires pretty much changed all of that. And one more thought about winter. Not everyone leaves when the snow starts to fall, but quite a few retirees head for Florida, the Gulf Coast, sunny Arizona, or some other warm spot, which got me thinking, what do Canadians do when winter sets in? Every night Carl Bonack tells us about all the cold air north of us in Canada. It's not only colder there, but it pretty much stretches from border to border. The southernmost city in Canada is Windsor, which is just across the river from Detroit. And we all know the Motor City's climate is warmer than ours, but it's not the place you want to go to escape from winter. So we can chalk up one more plus for living in the United States. We can find a place to escape the cold without leaving the country. Of course, when you do a weekly TV show, it doesn't make any difference. Like many of you, it's just a matter of grin and bear it and hope that spring arrives someday. Back in a minute. Time for us to wrap it up for another week. The next time we get together, March will have arrived on the calendar. March is the season when spring arrives. We'll see how that works out this year. Remember to keep Upper Michigan's source in mind if you want to see a replay of this show or for news anytime. Thanks to Governor Whitmer for joining us this morning for a look at key issues as she begins serving as Michigan's 49th governor. Thanks also to TV6's Rick Rhodes for an update on the Carl Pellenpa Lifetime Achievement Award. And of course, thank you for joining us. Let's plan to get together again next Sunday morning.